Hi everyone, Miss Andronicus here, and today we are looking at average speed. Let's start with constant speed. So speed is the rate at which something moves. When at a constant speed, the distance moved is always directly proportional to the time, and you can use that proportionality to solve problems involving speed. So if you were ever graphing it, and often anything to do with speed is graphed, you would find that you'd have distance and time moving in a linear fashion because it's directly proportional. Let's have a look at this example. So a car travels at a constant speed. It travels at 45 kilometers in 30 minutes. Work out the speed of the car in kilometers per hour. So we want to know per 1 hour. If we've got kilometers and hours, here we have 45 kilometers, but we only have half of an hour in that 30 minutes. So therefore, if we want 1 whole hour, we know we need to multiply by 2, and that's the same on this side. So 90 kilometers is the answer per hour. So I would answer that 90 kilometers per hour. In this way, it's actually very similar to the unitary method, where you get that 1 per hour every time you need to get to that 1 hour. So if, for example, we were looking at 3 hours or 4 hours or 5 hours, we would need to divide down always to get back to that 1. Average speed. So speed equals distance over time. We can reduce that down to just the abbreviation, speed equals distance over time. And that's a formula that you can remember. Average speed is, of course, based on the whole journey. When we look at just regular speed equals distance over time, that's assuming we're always traveling at a constant speed. And of course, in life, that's of course not always the case for the whole, certainly not for the whole journey. You've got to speed up and then slow down at the end. So we always tend to refer to average speed because that's the whole journey. And we look at this formula. Average speed equals the total distance traveled over the total time taken. So distance traveled over the time taken, divided by the time taken. You can think about this in a nice little triangle format. So this is a little way to be able to remember it. If you think about it, the point of the triangle at the top, if you think alphabetical order, left to right, you always start with the D at the top, and then left to right, the S, and then the T, alphabetical. That's going to help you always find the correct formula, because these sorts of problems are based on what part of the information the question gives. In order to be able to work it out, you always need 2 of the 3 parts. So if, for example, a question gives you the speed and the distance, then by doing a calculation, you can always work out the time. Again, if there's another piece of that information that is missing, then you calculate with the other 2. Let me show you what I mean. If I know the speed is 90, for example, I know the total time taken is, I don't know the distance, but I know the time taken is 2 hours, then I can work out the distance by just an easy solving of the equation. Multiply by 2 on both sides. So that means 180 equals the distance, and that's in kilometers, let's say. Okay, so every single time you can always find out the third missing bit of information. To remember the formula really easily, that's where this triangle comes in. So if I'm missing the speed, I just cover that with my finger, and I can see this is actually the formula. Speed equals distance over time. That's what this line acts as. It acts as that vinculum in the fraction. If I reset and I'm looking at, for example, wanting to find the distance, I don't know the distance, but the question gives me the speed and the time. This is on the same plane, and that's your multiplication. So distance equals speed multiplied by time. So that's another example. If in the last example, the question doesn't have time, then I can see all I need to do is divide the distance by the speed. So time equals distance divided by the speed. So that's a little trick that you can use to be able to remember what all the formulas are, or just remember the basic formula from here and rearrange, as I know you can do. Let's try an example. A toy car takes 5 seconds to travel 105 centimeters. Work out the average speed in centimeters per second. Okay, so I know my triangle, distance, speed, and time. Okay, the question gives me a time. Great. The question gives me a distance. So therefore, I know I'm finding speed, and it says it pretty clearly. So speed equals distance divided by time. Substitute it in. The distance is 105. The time is 5 seconds. The speed, therefore, is 21 centimeters per second. That's pretty fast. In this case, the question asks for centimeters per second. The time is given in seconds, the distance is given in centimeters, so that there's no conversion there necessary. Just be aware of if questions are presenting you information that is in perhaps a different unit of measure. Okay? Moving on, converting between hours and minutes. So if we have a look at this green box, 2 hours and 30 minutes, 2.5 hours, or 2.5 hours, these are all the same, okay? All mean the same unit of time, okay? If you ever need to convert the minutes, depending on how the question asks for you to answer it, you need to make sure that you use this conversion and you are able to convert the minutes appropriately, because 2.5 hours here, 2.5 is the same as 2 hours and 30 minutes. It, of course, works slightly differently with time because your whole hour is 60, not 100, which is normally what we're used to using. So you've got to be aware that if a question asks for you to answer it in hours and minutes, any decimals cannot be converted straight to minutes. So that can't be 2 hours and 50 minutes, because we know half of an hour is not 50. Okay, so you just need to be aware of that. So change minutes to hours, divide the minutes only by 60. Okay, so I would take that 30 minutes and divide by 60, and there's my decimal. Change hours to minutes, multiply the decimal only by 60. So this, I'd take that 5, multiply it by 60, and that would give me 30. Okay, so let's do one final example. A train travels 306 kilometers from Madrid to Valencia at an average speed. Okay, work out the journey time in hours and minutes. Okay, so again, distance, speed, time. We have distance, we have the speed, we don't have the time. So time equals distance over speed, okay, because they're the two knowns in this particular formula. Time equals 306 divided by 90. So we're doing kilometers an hour. Great, so time therefore equals, scroll down a little bit, 3.4 hours. But the question asks for hours and minutes. So we need to make sure we take our 0.4, we just take the 0.4 and we multiply by 60 as instructed earlier, and that is going to be 24 minutes. So therefore the answer is 3 hours and 24 minutes. Okay, that's it. Give it a go, guys. Thanks.